Welcome, everyone, to the NoDQ.com live recap of Friday Night Smackdown for February 28th, 2025. Not only will I be discussing SmackDown, but I will also be giving my thoughts on Dynamite from Wednesday, February 26th. I was unable to do a recap due to being on a flight, but I'm here now. I'll be talking about SmackDown and Dynamite. Shout out to everybody watching this, whether it's live or on demand. For people watching live, I'm looking for your feedback, your thoughts, what you liked, what you didn't like from SmackDown, as well as Dynamite. But we'll get to Dynamite in a little bit. Let's talk about SmackDown. We opened up the show with the footage of The Rock and Cody Rhodes from last week. The Rock wants Cody's soul. And for this week's SmackDown, we were going to hear from Cody as a follow-up. Now, when Cody arrived to the arena, we found out that The Rock had a special locker room presented to Cody, and we'll get to that in just a few moments. Trish Stratus came to the ring. This week's SmackDown was in Toronto on the eve of Elimination Chamber. Trish was wearing a Maple Leafs jersey. Crowd chanted, "Thank you, Trish." She wondered what year we were in. She mentioned Lillian Garcia doing announcing, The Rock being on TV, and her wrestling at Elimination Chamber. She said it will be the first time her kids will see her wrestle. She then introduced the women's champion, Tiffany Stratton. They said it's Trishy time and Tiffy time. But then Chelsea Green and Piper Niven dressed up as the Mountie. They came out there. Chelsea cut a heel promo on Canada saying that she is honored to represent the people of America because they are better there. Tiffany said that Chelsea doesn't represent her, though, and Tiffany challenged Chelsea to a match. Chelsea said she had other plans, but then Trish Stratus told Nick Aldis to go bring out a referee, and that's exactly what happened. And that led to our first match of the evening. Women's champion Tiffany Stratton versus United States champion Chelsea Green. Segment was fine. Of course, I always have the issues with them just conveniently in their wrestling gear, and it sets up a match after the commercial break. I like the times when they're in their street clothes and have to actually wrestle in their street clothes. Although I will say last week, Chelsea Green was told she would be having a match. I guess her being in the street clothes would not make sense since she was prepared to wrestle. Tiffany, though, whatever. So we had the match. It's nitpicking. We had the match, and Chelsea Green did get in some offense, busted out the Rough Rider, but Tiffany kicked out. And then Tiffany was perhaps on the verge of picking up the win, but then Piper Niven pulled Chelsea to the outside. And then we had Trish Stratus getting involved. And then Nia Jax, Candice LeRae interfered, attacking both Tiffany and Trish. Match was thrown out, disqualification. Trish and Tiffany, though, were able to fight back. Nia Jax and Candice LeRae had to retreat at this point. Segment was fine. My prediction not changing for Elimination Chamber. I fully expect Trish and Tiffany to pick up the win. Backstage, Nick Aldis revealed that a 6-man mini tournament would take place. The original plan was for LA Knight to face Shinsuke Nakamura, but plans were changed. A very close friend of Nakamura's passed away. Looks like WWE decided to put an angle together where a tournament would be held. 3 singles matches on this show, with the winners going on to a triple threat later on the show. And then the winner of that getting the opportunity against Nakamura. We'll talk about those matches. Backstage, we had some tension between the New Bloodline. Solo Sikoa said that they have to make a statement by taking the United States Championship. He told Jacob Fatu to bring the championship to the family. We also had Cody Rhodes backstage entering the locker room that was provided to him from The Rock. You had a huge wall of alcohol, wine. You had fancy food, sushi. And of course, R-Truth was there for some entertainment, some comedy. We then had our first U.S. tournament match. Andrade got a lot of offense in on Jacob Fatu. Now you see this match on paper. You think it's an obvious win for Jacob Fatu. Andrade getting in a lot of offense seems to confirm that. And sure enough, despite everything, Andrade did a lot of things, coming over the top rope with a Hurricane Rana to Fatu on the floor, coming off the top of the moonsault to the floor. Then he got him back in the ring, the double knees in the corner, could not beat Fatu. Fatu then gained the upper hand, did the hip attacks, impaler DDT, and then the big moonsault off the top to score the 1-2-3 victory. Solid match, predictable outcome, but good match nonetheless. Fatu is a beast. He is on a roll right now. Backstage, the Street Profits were talking with Nick Aldis, and then we had Legado del Fantasma coming in. A confrontation led to a match, but before the Street Profits could even get to the ring, DIY attacked them. And then we had the Los Garzas coming out there. Then we had Pretty Deadly. Then we had the Motor City Machine Guns, all the active tag teams that have been feuding over the past couple weeks. They were brawling, and we had the typical pull-apart brawl scenario here where the officials were coming out there, but of course, they could not restore order. What good are they? They can never restore order. All the tag teams just kept brawling, doing all sorts of crazy stuff. So I'm thinking at some point, probably WrestleMania, we are getting a multi-way tag team title match. At this time, it's not on the cards for Elimination Chamber, so I suspect we're going to see this big multi-way match at WrestleMania. We had Drew McIntyre and Cody Rhodes backstage, and McIntyre, being the jerk that he is, said that Rock will soon find out that Cody sold his soul a long time ago. We had Drew McIntyre cutting off a John Cena video package, and he sat down on the announce table in the CM Punk position, the seated position, and he said that the old John Cena, we'll talk about how the new John Cena has the bald spot and turned his back for Hollywood. And McIntyre said he is going to bury Cena at the Elimination Chamber event. But then Damian Priest interrupted, and he said that R-Truth makes more sense than Drew McIntyre, said that McIntyre has a weird obsession with CM Punk. And then Seth Rollins came out there, and they were talking about Money in the Bank when McIntyre attempted to cash in Money in the Bank. And Rollins said that they don't stand a chance against him. CM Punk then came out there, and the crowd was very much into Punk, chanting CM Punk's name. Punk was ripping into everybody. And then Rollins said that Punk will main event WrestleMania over his dead body. And McIntyre said it's been 6 months. Punk is overdue for an injury. And then Damian Priest said, why even talk? McIntyre should stop talking because all he's going to do is complain on the internet after he loses like he always does. And then Rollins said that Punk's WrestleMania dreams will die. They were all going back and forth here. And then all of a sudden, John Cena's music hits. The crowd goes nuts. But then it's a swerve. It's Logan Paul trolling everybody, getting some great heat. They were chanting F you, Logan, and I could actually hear the chant. So thank you, USA Network, for not censoring them. And Logan Paul took some shots at everybody. He called Damian Priest irrelevant. And then CM Punk chased after Logan. Logan had to retreat, run away. It was a really good segment. This I thought was very effective on as far as building up Elimination Chamber. I thought everybody did well here. I liked the bantering back and forth. Logan with the trolling. I really liked the segment. Best segment on SmackDown in a while, as far as I'm concerned. One of the best ones of the year up to this point, for sure. I very much liked it. And no John Cena, so they're saving him for the Chamber. Next up, we had LA Knight versus Santos Escobar in another U.S. title mini tournament match. Knight got sent into the steel steps, and then after the break, Knight made his comeback. But then Santos regained the upper hand with a top rope Hurricane Rana. Then he went back up top, came off the top, but LA Knight caught him with a BFT in midair to pick up the win. Average match, but I did like the finish with the BFT out of nowhere in midair. That was a cool finish. LA Knight advances. Again, no surprise. Sami Zayn showed up for a promo, and he invited Kevin Owens to the ring so they could each say their final piece in front of their countrymen. And after Elimination Chamber, he said there will be nothing left to say. Kevin Owens was in Toronto, but he was not in that building. He was actually at the Rogers Center, the site of the Elimination Chamber. And he said he's not the bad guy. He said Sami Zayn deserves everything that is happening to him. Owens said after it's all over, he's not going to help Zayn's family. He wants to watch them suffer. And he said that it's all Zayn's fault. Zayn responded by saying that he is nervous about what he's going to do to Kevin Owens. He's nervous that Owens' family won't forgive him. He is prepared to end Kevin Owens. Good segment here. I liked the promo work from both guys to set up the match. I liked Kevin Owens cutting the promo at the empty Rogers Center. That was a nice touch. Well done. We then had The Miz backstage with Cody Rhodes, and Miz was saying that Cody has to take the offer because if Cody doesn't, somebody else will. Is that foreshadowing for the future? The Miz, he is a veteran after all. Will Miz be right? Only time will tell. We had Braun Strowman versus Carmelo in the third U.S. title tournament match. Strowman was immediately dominant, took down Carmelo with the Strowman Express, but then Solo Sikoa and Tama Tonga showed up. They had a chair, and Strowman no-sold a chair shot from Solo. Strowman used the chair, and he took out Tama Tonga. He got back in the ring, but while the referee was distracted, Carmelo took the chair, slammed it on the mat, and then threw it at Strowman. Strowman caught it. Referee turned around, thought Strowman used the chair on Carmelo, and called for the bell. It was a DQ. It was the old classic Eddie Guerrero cheating to win the match. It was fun. It was fun to bring back that Eddie Guerrero moment, and Carmelo gets a win over Strowman. It wasn't really much of a match. I mean, there was barely anything. It was more the angle with the bloodline interfering and the Eddie Guerrero spot. So yeah, not much to say about it. Pretty simple here, but entertaining. Shout out to Hamp Cano, who sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you for the tip, Hamp. I appreciate it. Hamp says, I would have liked an empty arena match with Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. The thing about empty arena matches is we got plenty of those during the pandemic. I think we had enough empty arena matches to last a decade during the pandemic. But yes, a classic empty arena match every now and then is pretty cool. And you can also watch empty arena matches over on AEW. I kid. It's a joke. AEW draws pretty decent crowds even in a down period. So it's a joke. Relax, people. But yeah, it would be cool to see like an old school empty arena match every now and then. But you really need a unique situation to call for it. The fans help bring the energy to these matches. The one that really stands out, there were a couple, back in the 80s, but the one I remember is The Rock versus Mankind. And what was fun about that was The Rock doing all the trash talking. And you couldn't hear him in a regular match with an audience, but in the empty arena environment, you could hear all the one-liners and everything. Like that stuff was great. So if you have somebody like The Rock doing it for like halftime heat, yeah, it'd be cool to see that one day. But you would need like two really good trash talkers, I think, to pull it off. All right, let's get back to SmackDown. We had a 6-woman tag team match. Liv Morgan, Raquel, and Roxanne Perez versus Bayley, Naomi, and Bianca Belair. Elimination Chamber participants in this one match. Everybody was brawling. And then after the break, things got restored for a bit. But of course, they broke down again. And in the end, Roxanne was able to pin Bayley with the Pop Rocks, building up some momentum. I should probably change my secondary pick at this point because I went with Roxanne as a secondary pick. I don't think she's winning regardless. Like I very strongly feel like Bianca is winning it. After the match was over, Alexa Bliss popped up behind Roxanne and took her out with the Abigail DDT, and we had the glitches. I also don't think Alexa is winning. I feel like after this, we're going to see her involved in some sort of storyline with the Wyatt Six, and that'll be her WrestleMania plans, whatever they got going with the Wyatt Six. We had Charlotte Flair backstage interviewed, and basic promo here from her. She just said that Tiffany Stratton has a bigger problem to deal with after WrestleMania, and that's her for the Women's Championship. We had a Nakamura video package, and he said that nothing but hell awaits his next challenger for the championship, for the United States title. Next up, we had our main event match, not the final segment, because that was reserved for the final boss. We'll talk about that shortly. Jacob Fatu versus LA Knight, versus Carmelo. It was a good match. Competitive with all three. Carmelo managed to get in some offense, although Fatu was no-selling a lot of Carmelo's offense. And then Fatu charged at them outside of the ring, but missed, went over the barricade. And then after the break, Fatu came back in there. I mean, Carmelo nearly won a couple of times. First 48 to LA Knight. LA Knight kicked out, though. Nothing but net. And then Fatu broke it up with a swanton. Then Fatu hit the big moonsault to Carmelo. However, LA Knight pulled Fatu out of the ring, got back in the ring, pinned Carmelo, basically stealing the pin. So we're right back to where we were before SmackDown started. LA Knight was supposed to face Nakamura. Nakamura's close friend passes away. So we get this instead. And LA Knight wins it. You know what? I'm not gonna criticize it too much. They changed plans last minute. Somebody died. It was predictable when they announced this. I'm thinking, okay, LA Knight's probably just going to win the whole thing in the end. Jacob Fatu won't take the fall, and that's exactly what happened. But it was some good wrestling. I mean, it was pointless, but I'm not going to hold too much of a grudge against it. We did get some good wrestling out of it. And, they just needed something to hold over until Nakamura's back and we get the match. We had our main event segment of the evening, which was Cody Rhodes coming to the ring to speak to Michael Cole. And Michael Cole was talking about all the things that could benefit Cody Rhodes if he sells his soul to The Rock at Elimination Chamber. Talked about how Cody will have all this money. He'll have a possible seat on the board of directors. He can be the corporate champion. No more live events in small towns. No more 3-week European tours. He could be home with his wife and daughter all the time. And then we found out that The Rock had another gift for Cody, not just the locker room. We had a fancy Cody Rhodes themed truck that The Rock got for Cody. They brought that out. This felt very much like an Attitude Era segment, trying to sell this idea that Cody can be the man. He can have anything he wants. He can have the nice truck. He can have the locker room. It felt very much like an Attitude Era like segment here. And then we got The Rock on the big screen. I forgot to mention before this real quick, CM Punk was backstage with Cody, and he said he wants Cody to take the offer, but then shine it up real nice and stick it straight up The Rock's part-time Hollywood candy ass. And then he said he'll see Cody in the main event of WrestleMania. So that was a nice little segment too. The Rock, though, appeared on the big screen, and this was interesting. So my only complaint about this was The Rock was filming this at an airport, and you could hear the sound of the plane the whole time. One of the rare instances of not the best production from WWE. Now, maybe The Rock just shot this and sent it to WWE to put on the show. I just wish we didn't have that plane sound during the promo. But beyond that, it was really entertaining. The Rock said that Cody loves driving. He can drive that truck on the dusty roads. And Rock brought up Dusty, Cody's dad, saying that Rock has been talking to Dusty all week. And he wants to know that he can embrace Cody as the champion, his champion. He said he will make Cody's dreams come true. And then he had one final gift, and it was a weightlifting belt. And it had Cody's soul, June 11th, 2015. And this was the day that Dusty Rhodes passed away. I was like, whoa. When I saw the date, I knew what the date was. And I gasped at that. I was like, wow, they went there. And The Rock said it broke his heart when Dusty passed away. And he told Cody to not break his heart. And that's when SmackDown went off the air. This was a hell of a segment. This was dark, man. So yeah, I don't think Cody is selling his soul, but they really pushed this hard. But now when Cody denies The Rock is going to be fuming. I thought this was really well done, other than the audio with the plane. Yeah, they went heavy for this angle, using Dusty. Now, Dusty obviously isn't around to approve the angle, but, Cody is closer to Dusty than anybody else. So, Cody's not going to do this unless he feels comfortable with it, and they can use this to make money. And that's the old school mentality is to make money and use a heavy real life story and implement it into the fiction. So yeah, I'm very intrigued now. And that's ultimately the goal of the show, is to get me intrigued. So I think they were successful in this. SmackDown, it was a bit of a mixed bag. Like, I do feel like there was quite a bit of filler on the show, and not all WWE's fault. You know, as I mentioned, with Nakamura's friend passing away. And, you know, some of the other stuff was nothing I'll remember a week from now. But the main stuff, I thought the promo for the men's chamber was very strong. We did have good wrestling throughout the show. And the closure, I thought, was a nice cliffhanger for Elimination Chamber, a nice hook for the end. So for that, I did enjoy the show. I am giving it a 7 out of 10 overall because it did succeed in building up my interest in the men's chamber and the Rock segment with Cody. That was a positive for both of those. And, you know, the Trish stuff was fine, pretty standard, but, you know, it was entertaining. So, yeah, 7 out of 10. Pretty good show this week. And Hamp liked it. So there you go. If Hamp enjoyed it, it must have been good. Now, I'll go ahead and talk about AEW Dynamite. Make sure you guys stay tuned to NoDQ.com for coverage of the Elimination Chamber Premium Live event. And also, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens had a good promo too. So three strong segments to build up the chamber matches. I think a 7 out of 10 is fair. Let's talk about Dynamite. I did not watch it live, but I tried to take that into consideration with my recap of the show. I'm not going to spend too much time recapping Dynamite. So chat room, I just want to know your overall thoughts on Dynamite. And I will put up some of the comments on the stream here. I just want to know your overall thoughts, if there was a segment you liked or didn't like, and your own rating. You could just give me a couple sentences, whatever you can fit in the character limit. Let me know your thoughts on Dynamite if you watched the show. So it opened with Adam Copeland vowing to take out the Death Riders. He had an ambulance. He was on a mission. And we had footage of MJF removing the AEW bet on himself tattoo that he got from when he returned at Double or Nothing. And Adam Page drove to the building, and he had a quick squash match with Aaron Solo. And then he called out MJF, and then MJF came out with a bloody towel. And then we saw Christopher Daniels, who was bloodied up backstage. But the problem with this segment was, first of all, they overdo the blood angles. I mean, they do this every week, so it's like, what's the big deal? We see it all the time. And the worst part of this, though, was Daniels was hitting himself in the head, and they actually got this on camera. Like, what? Like, was he blading himself and, like, cutting himself on camera? Like, what the hell? And on top of that, like, you could see one of those lighting rigs. So it's like, if this is supposed to be like a spur of the moment thing, MJF went back there and attacked him. They had a nice big lighting rig there to make sure you had a good shot of Daniel. So it's like, could this not be any more choreographed? So yeah, this is one of the issues with AEW production-wise. This felt a bit flat. And also the fact that they do blood like every week. So it's like, big deal. Who cares? We see it all the time. It came off very, very low rent. We then had, and one more thing too. So nobody is checking on Daniels right away. Like, he's seriously bleeding, and it takes Adam Page running all the way to the back and then telling somebody, get some help from him. Like, shouldn't that happen like immediately before Page even gets back there? Like, what the hell? So yeah, this is AEW being a victim of weak production. Like, if this was better produced, like, it could have been more effective. We had Don Callis and Chris Jericho making a deal. Brian Keith is going to cash in a bounty on Will Ospreay. yeah, Brian Keith is going to beat Will Ospreay. Come on now. Brian Keith is one step above Ring of Honor because of his association with Chris Jericho. And he's going to beat Will Ospreay before the pay-per-view. Yeah. Match was good, though. I mean, it's a Will Ospreay match, so it's always going to be good. Predictable, but good. Yeah, Brian Keith is like, your Heath Slater going against Drew McIntyre, even though they were both part of three-man band, but you look at where they're at now. Or Santino Marella versus Drew McIntyre, or Tozawa versus Drew McIntyre. I mean, that's basically what this is. So anyways, it was a good match, and the crowd was chanting, "This is awesome." So they enjoyed it. Good for them. It was a good match, but, predictable. And, of course, Ospreay won with the Styles Clash and the Hidden Blade. And then Kyle Fletcher was up in one of the luxury boxes, and Ospreay went up after him, and the two of them brawled in the crowd a little bit. This was more effective in building up the match than Ospreay beating Brian Keith. I'll give them that. We had a backstage segment with the TBS champion, Mercedes Moné, and Billy Starks. And the acting in this was something out of like a middle school play. This was rough. And we had Momo, who is facing Mercedes at Revolution. Feels like a filler match to me. Chasing her away with a baseball bat. We had the Outrunners versus Brian Cage and Lance Archer. This was an odd match. So last week they were teasing Archer and Cage challenging the Hurt Syndicate. Two beefy guys, Archer and Cage, against a beefy guy in Bobby Lashley and a guy who's been booked like a beefy athlete, Shelton Benjamin. But this was strange. Now, the Outrunners, I feel like AEW maybe is pushing these guys too little, too late. Like, they were hot a couple months ago, and now I feel like they've already cooled off. But then just as, Archer and Cage are dominating, and then Archer goes for the blackout, Hurt Syndicate's music hits, and Turbo Floyd rolls up Archer and gets the win. So now the tag team that wins by a fluke is going to be facing the Hurt Syndicate. And now, Archer and Cage, they lose so much on Dynamite and the big shows. As it is, they weren't serious contenders, and now they're even less serious of contenders. So if they ever face Hurt Syndicate, it means less. Outrunners, WWE or AEW, excuse me. I think they already missed the ball with these guys. Like, Outrunners should have gotten the rocket strapped to them like 2 months ago. And I feel like it's too little too late for these guys. So yeah, I was very confused by the booking of this one. Like, Outrunners should probably be squashed by Hurt Syndicate in like 2 minutes. We had Swerve Strickland come into the ring for a promo with Prince Nana. And I think that this was one of the highlights of the show. Good promo from Swerve, talking about how he wants to get back on track for the world title, but he's got to take care of Ricochet first. Ricochet interrupted. Ricochet is growing on me as a heel. Like, I think he's really feeling the most comfortable he ever has been on the microphone. And he's just, going out there and having fun. And I think it's pretty good. Like, I think Ricochet is taking the ball and running with it as a heel. He said he didn't want another match, which of course is the heel thing to say. And then Prince Nana revealed that he went to Tony Khan and had a contract made. A number one contenders match, Swerve versus Ricochet. Ricochet ultimately accepted so he can get his world title opportunity if he beats Swerve. And then Nana, this is the only part of the promo I'm like, meh. So Nana is talking about how important his robe is that Ricochet stole. This robe that means so much to the business. And then he said that he needs it back. And if he doesn't get it back, he doesn't know how much longer things can go on with him and Swerve. and then he walked off. So listen, I never heard of Prince Nana before AEW. How has this robe meant so much to the business? Like, I don't get it. It's not credible to me. Like, why is this robe such a big deal? Come on now. So yeah, I'm just not buying that. Maybe Nana turns against Swerve. I don't know what's going to happen at Revolution with these guys. I mean, I would think Swerve would win and go on to face John Moxley. I still am not convinced Copeland's winning the title, but we'll talk about that more later. It was a good segment. The Nana stuff, you know, I think they're making a bigger deal out of this robe than it actually is. Next up, we had FTR and Daniel Garcia against Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, and Roderick Strong. It feels like it's been a while since Garcia has wrestled on Dynamite. It seems like he's been mostly on Collision. That TNT title has felt like it's been downgraded since Garcia won it. Really for a while. Like it lost a lot of its prestige with, I think, hot potatoing the title so much, and then injuries and various things, and all these new titles being introduced. The TNT title just doesn't mean much. Now, I thought this was a good match, fast-paced, entertaining, well-worked match with these six. I liked the finish. You know, there was this four-way submission, and while this four-way submission was going on, like four guys giving each other submissions, Cole managed to pin Garcia. So they set up Cole as a contender for Garcia. Now, the only negative to this is they announced the TNT title match, Cole versus Garcia, but it's going to be on Collision against Elimination Chamber, which I don't get that. Like, shouldn't this be the pay-per-view match? Cole versus Garcia for the title. Why put it on Collision when very few people are going to be watching it? Again, downgrading that TNT title. I get that Collision's on TNT, but you know that title was like the secondary title, and now I don't even know what the secondary title is at this point. Like, all these titles are kind of just flat to me. They all feel like the European title at this point. We had a backstage brawl between Claudio and Cope. I hate calling him Cope. They brawled. They came to the ring. We had interference from Wheeler Yuta and Marina Shafir, but then Jay White came out to help, and then Wheeler Yuta accidentally attacked Marina with the running knee, and then John Moxley showed up, the world champion, tried to help out, but Jay White held him back. And then Copeland gave Claudio the concerto and then teased doing it to Marina. But then Willow Nightingale showed up, and she's the one that gave Marina the concerto. I liked the segment. Adam Copeland taking out the Death Riders one by one. I don't know about the concerto, though. Like, I felt like it was a cooler move when I was a kid watching it, but seeing it now, like, they're very protective with the chair shots to the head. So it's like they try not to connect to the head, and I don't know, the move just doesn't look as good as I remember it back in the day. Maybe we just see much cooler moves nowadays. The concerto just feels very dated to me, and doesn't really look particularly good. You know, the wrestler can't even really sell it either because they're supposed to be unconscious while they're being hit with it. So it's like they don't move at all. And I don't know, it just doesn't look very good to me these days. I did like the segment, though. And then we had Harley Cameron versus Deonna Purrazzo in the 9:30 spot. I was seeing comments online. People were mad Deonna lost this match. I don't have a problem with Deonna losing. Of the two of them, Harley's the one who has momentum right now. So you should capitalize on the person that actually has momentum. and that's Harley. So I don't have a problem with this at all. Harley got the win here, and it was the right booking decision as far as I'm concerned. You know, Deonna is basically enhancement talent at this point. I have no issues whatsoever with Harley winning this. I was fine with it. We then had our main event, which was Orange Cassidy versus Takeshita for the, I believe, international title. I mentioned this on the last Dynamite recap. To me, this match, anticlimactic. I didn't believe for a second Orange Cassidy was going to lose to Takeshita. Takeshita versus Omega. They already set that up at Grand Slam. That's the match. Why are they doing this with Orange Cassidy? I mean, the match was good. Story of the show, good matches. And, you know, they had the usual Orange Cassidy routine where Takeshita breaks the glasses and Orange Cassidy puts on a new pair. It was a good match. And in the end, Takeshita won, which is the least surprising thing possibly of the year. So yeah, Takeshita won. There was no cliffhanger. He just celebrated with Don Callis, and that was the end. So I feel like this is one of those instances where watching it later made me less frustrated. Like I was thinking, watching this on DVR, would I rate the show lower because I'm not watching it live and I don't have that excitement level of watching it live? But I actually think watching it later helped me in this case, because if I was watching live with this match, feeling there was no chance Orange Cassidy was winning, and then they just end the show with no cliffhanger or anything like that afterwards, I would have been mad. I would have been like, why did I waste my time watching the end of this show for a very predictable match with no cliffhanger or post-match angle, nothing at the end? In this case, I wasn't that mad. You know, I just, watched it. I already knew what happened, and I wasn't as mad. So there you go. The show was good. Maybe average. I'm kind of like teetering between a 5 and a 6 for this one. I thought it was all right, but I definitely don't think I missed much. Like, I don't have any thoughts like, man, I should have tried to somehow watch it, which I really couldn't. I was on a flight, and their Wi-Fi is not too good. Most airlines I've been on, the Wi-Fi is not up to par with what you have at home. I'm going to go with a 5. I think it was average, run-of-the-mill Dynamite. Had its moments. It was solid. If you enjoy the current AEW product, you would have liked the show, but I definitely don't think it was much must-watch. Go out of your way to see it. That's my take on Dynamite. Did a decent job of hyping up Revolution. The Copeland angle was fine. The MJF angle, it was okay for what it was, but I still had my issues with it. So the show was all right. Decent. That was my thoughts on Dynamite. Thank you guys for watching the recap of both SmackDown and Dynamite. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up on YouTube. Spread the word about No DQ. Don't forget the live coverage of Elimination Chamber. I will be back after the show with my recap. Thanks again, everyone. Say yes to NoDQ.com. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the Chamber pay-per-view, and I will see you all next time.